Welcome to the Hustle Baby Podcast, where I give entrepreneurs 15 minutes to show, grow, and let the world know about their small business. Today I'm hustling with Jenna Raheb of Raheb Physical Therapy. Based in Medfield, Jenna specializes in pediatric and adult care, helping families and kids with complex needs find strength, freedom, and mobility, where every session is truly individualized. Hey everybody, Evan Walsh here with another episode of the Hustle Baby Podcast, and today I'm sitting with Jenna Raheb at Raheb Physical Therapy. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and sort of how did you get into this private business of Raheb Physical Therapy?
So I'm a pediatric physical therapist. So I've been a physical therapist now for about 11 years.
Okay.
And I've had my practice for the past about 4 of those years.
Okay.
So I spent a good portion of my career in the big hospital systems.
Sure.
And then shifted into the private practice world. And then honestly, so my long-term goal was not to have a practice.
Really?
So this is something that kind of came later. So
Okay.
I always envisioned my career to be part academia
Mhm.
and part clinical.
Okay.
So I was a professor at a couple different universities
Oh, wow.
for a little while. And really I needed to find a job that allowed me the flexibility to
Sure.
teach, to change my schedule from
Yeah.
semester to semester. I also always knew I wanted to have a family and I wanted to have kids. So I wanted the flexibility of being able to alter my schedule for
Of course.
future children. And then as I approached that in my career, really fell in love with having my own business and
Yep.
being able to have the freedom to treat how I want,
Mhm.
the way that I want to. And I really enjoyed wearing all the different hats,
Yeah.
right? Because obviously when you have your own business, right, you're not
Absolutely.
it's not just the clinical hat of treating and working with patients and families, but there's also the networking and marketing
right.
and advertising and all those pieces and social media, right? And so
Absolutely.
absolutely have loved wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
And so it was about a year ago, actually, that I made the decision to slowly scale back on all of my teaching
Yep.
and put all of my efforts into this practice. So I started off doing in-home
Yep.
care, and I just signed the lease on the space in Medfield.
Awesome.
Almost exactly a year ago.
Oh,
actually.
congratulations.
So thank you.
That's awesome.
And it's still here. So.
Yeah. That's great.
And then as for the services I'm offering, so in general, it's pediatric physical therapy. So
Yeah.
there's a few different specialties I have. So one of which is the medically complex patient population.
Mhm.
So it's probably my main specialty, I would say. So working with kids with diagnoses like brain injuries and spinal cord
Right.
injuries, strokes, who have a variety of different mobility impairments.
Sure.
But I also work with, the kids with mild delays or the toe walkers, the babies with torticollis, things
Sure.
like that. I also provide therapy for kids with scoliosis.
Oh, wow.
And then I also have a wheelchair and adaptive equipment clinic.
Oh, that's
And
great.
that is open to both kids and adults.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for a year. So far, so good, obviously.
So far, yep.
What has been the most rewarding thing about what you're doing and all of that?
So, I mean, to me, the most rewarding thing is getting to help patients and families. I've always loved being a pediatric physical therapist, and right from the beginning, that's always been the reward.
Sure.
Parents oftentimes come to me in a very nervous and stressed state because there's something going on with their child and they're not sure
Yep.
what to do to help their child and how to best manage it. And I can help them problem solve through that.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
very rewarding.
Having been through some difficult times myself, I can tell you the most fearful time in that process is kind of the unknown.
Mhm.
And then once you have a plan, you kind of feel like, all right, now we're moving in the right direction.
Mhm.
And that's something that you obviously provide to families and
Exactly, yeah.
parents too. So that's great. What has been, in your opinion, what has been some of the biggest challenges of opening the business? And I know you said wearing many hats.
Mhm.
What do you think has been kind of your biggest challenge?
So, well, can I give you a couple answers?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so initially I would say is the leap of faith.
Yeah.
Right? Just taking that first step of going out on your own. It's a big risk.
Sure.
And no guarantee, right?
Mhm.
So there's the initial leap of faith. I think the second hardest thing has been becoming a parent. So I've had the practice itself since 2021. I've had the outpatient portion of my practice here in Medfield for the past year. But I had a baby 18 months ago.
Wow.
So balancing
Yeah.
being a parent
Yeah.
and working has been a challenge. And
Sure.
and I know I've talked to a lot of female business owners about this too, where, I think there's oftentimes a pressure to kind of choose one, right? You're going to do the mom thing or the work thing. And I firmly believe that you can be good at both things.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to find a balance between the two. And the way I describe it to people is like, I feel like I used to work at lightning speed.
Yeah.
I don't work at lightning speed
Sure.
anymore, but making both work. So
Yeah, I think that's an important aspect, especially, for everybody really. And it's kind of redistributing your time and, finding what's important and being able to focus a little bit more on the things that matter. So, but that's great. And obviously you're doing really well. What are some of obviously you've been here for a year. Any success stories other than, the 1-year celebration?
So I would say, I think the success story of having an outpatient practice is, I feel like I have done a much better job at helping patients and families with adaptive equipment. So one of the things I offer, like I mentioned, is I have an adaptive equipment and wheelchair clinic.
Yep.
And so whether it's your first time wheelchair or you're a lifetime wheelchair user and you need help getting a new chair, you're having trouble with the one that you already have, I feel like I'm able to help with servicing this population much more efficiently. There's a lot of struggles right now in the adaptive equipment world. And I feel like just having this space, I've just had an easier time with, getting demos for people to try and getting patients in quicker, and scheduling is easier and deliveries are easier. So I feel like I'm doing a better job for that population.
What are some of the problems that you are finding in the industry?
So good question. Before, it was a lot of the supply chain issues post-COVID and whatnot, and that's now normalized.
Yeah.
There's a variety of issues though. So right now, one of the big things that we're battling is insurance coverage for equipment. So that usually takes a lot of advocacy and a lot of helping families figure out, okay, so how do you maximize your insurance, but also when insurance isn't covering a piece of equipment, what are other avenues? Is there grant funding out there? Also, a lot of the vendors, they're just overwhelmed with the amount of equipment orders and repairs that need to happen. So when you have an overload of patients, oftentimes things kind of happen a little bit slower. When you need repairs on your chair, sometimes there's long waits for equipment, things like that.
And how does that translate to you in terms of, how does that affect you in your business?
Yeah. So, well, for one thing, there are some repairs that I can do and that I can help with. And so if I have a patient who say maybe they need help with fixing, a wheelchair brake or placement of a wheel or something like that, I can come in and I can help with some of those fixes so they don't have to wait for their vendor.
Well, that's nice.
There's also lots of points of hold up when it comes to getting equipment. So when it comes to like finding your vendor and chasing down physicians for scripts or things like that, I'm able to help with navigating that and
that's great.
Getting all of those pieces in order.
Taking all the tough stuff and really kind of making it easier for the family who's already dealing with a lot.
Exactly. And then also the way that my clinic is set up is there's a very heavy emphasis on education and trialing equipment. So, there's some equipment clinics that are designed where you show up on day one. They kind of tell you what you should get, and then you come back in a few months. The way that mine is designed is you have more of a chance to try. So, for example, if you need a wheelchair, I keep using that as the most common piece of equipment I help people get is that you get to actually try different pieces, different wheelchairs, and you get a lot of education. So that way, when it comes to designing your chair, you're part of the conversation as opposed to being at the mercy of the people who might know more,
Yeah, that's very cool. So obviously you love what you're doing.
Yes.
Where do you see yourself going in the next year, 5 years from now and all that?
So a good question. So I'm hoping at some point to hire. So and I'm actually
You're working alone?
looking. So I'm working alone. So I do have some like hired help when it comes to things like helping with my website and whatnot. So
But you really are wearing a lot of hats.
Yes, I am. I'm not a jack of all trades, so I do get help. But when it comes to the day-to-day of the business, I'm wearing all the hats. Yeah. So I would love to hire in the near future. So if you know of a pediatric physical therapist looking for a job, let me please reach out. And my hope is to be able to grow and be able to offer more, not just to Medfield, but also the surrounding towns. Yeah. So there are a variety of different patients that I work with, right? So I work with newborns, I work with babies, I work with toddlers, I work with kids, adolescents, right? And I would love to be able to see more kids, but also be able to expand my in-home services. I am still doing a little bit of in-home services, but it's hard to see everybody in their house because of drive time.
And you're one person.
Exactly. So it makes it really hard to do in-home care right now. So I would love to be able to expand my in-home services and basically take what I'm doing and be able to reach more patients and families.
Is most of your clientele Medfield based, or you're pulling from Dover, Westwood, and all around?
So I'd say for my patients who need PT at a higher frequency. So for example, your, infant who has a mild delay, or, your 6-year-old who's a toe walker, a lot of that is very local. However, when it comes to the adaptive equipment portion of things, people are driving. I think I would say I'm going to give it about an hour radius. I have quite a few patients who are driving from an hour because that's pretty hard to find an adaptive equipment PT.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
Yeah,
so you've got a great niche. You're helping people out. That's really great. If you had any advice, and I know that it tends to be a very similar answer, but I'm very curious. If you had to give anybody advice in terms of, this one's always fascinated me, taking that leap of faith, how do you give somebody some inspiration to do that? That might be like, I'd love to do something, but might be fearful of actually taking that step. Do you have any advice?
So my advice is, if you really are passionate about it and you love what you do, just do it, because you're going to find the energy. And even when you're scared, even when you're stressed, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then be patient.
Yeah.
This is the pep talk I give myself. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. Right? Everything takes time.
Baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So that would be my advice. Yeah.
I think the biggest fear is like, it's that unknown, and, and then it's like, I have to pay the bills, So I think, from my perspective too, it's like coming up with a good plan. I assume you had a pretty good, solid plan and foundation together before you took that leap.
So when I was first toying with the idea of starting a practice, I started by calling every single physical therapist, occupational therapist, and speech therapist I knew who had a business.
Okay.
And I just got them each on the phone, and one by one had a conversation. And each conversation, I had at least one major take home message. Awesome. And then it also gave me more things to research. Right. It gave me, another task, another podcast to listen to, another continuing ed course idea, right? Another connection with another therapist. And I'm really glad that I took that legwork before. Because, for one thing, I believe knowledge is power, right? If you can educate yourself as much as you can before going into an endeavor like this, it definitely pays off. But also, it helps build that initial networking.
Yes. I was just going to say, your professional network based on your outreach is really, was instrumental in helping you kind of get to where you are.
And it still is. And I'm constantly, you know how it is, right? Constantly networking, constantly reaching out to other businesses, other providers. Also, that's so important to me from a patient care perspective as well, because with, the patients that I see, it's very common that I'm not the only provider, right? So I'm very, very frequently helping my patients and families find speech therapists, occupational therapists, orthotists, right? Pediatricians, right? I do, right? If you're looking for a provider, please call, and I'm more than happy to help you navigate it. But it's important to me that I know who's in my area and who's also good at what they do and doing ethical things, so I can help support my patients beyond what I can offer as a physical therapist.
And sometimes in complementary practices too. Right. So I think that's really great. Well, listen, I have thoroughly enjoyed our interview. I think you are super easy to talk to. You're high energy and fun. So I don't know what else you could want to have in your physical therapist. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.